begin this section on research to practice, I want to unpack this concept of combinatoriality and point to some of its profound implications for research and instruction. I'm working on a companion video that will go into more detail about this concept and why it is a language universal, but the basics are important to make sense of the rest of this video. I did not encounter the term until 2024, but it builds on an old idea that language makes infinite ends from finite means. In 1965, Chomsky cited this phrase by Humboldt in 1836. David Scher described combinatoriality, which builds on that understanding, like this in 2021. The notion of combinatoriality postulates that a limited, and hence learnable, number of meaningless elements, examples phonemes, letters, and we can add phones and graphemes to this list, so these meaningless elements can be combined and recombined to generate an infinite number of meaningful units, examples morphemes, words. Moreover, I claim that this is a universal of writing systems and the process of learning to read. Now that is a bold claim. It raises the obvious question: what makes this nested structure so important? Scher and others have shown that it's down to the biological limits of cognitive processing. The speed and quantity of information we process to make sense of speech is truly mind-boggling. We have to be able to grasp complex meaning from abstract speech sounds that come at us in a speedy and steady flow. Speech has no spaces between words like orthography systems provide. If we stumble in comprehension, there is no rewinding of the tape to get a second crack at it. I can't help but think of the classic Lucille Ball scene with the speedy conveyor belt of chocolates she can't keep up with. The limits of cognitive processing are an immutable feature of the environment in which languages evolve. Speed of access to word identities is paramount. Automatic access to the identity of a word from its surface pronunciation requires the nested combinatorial structure modeled here. Developing automated access to meaning from spoken morphemes makes it possible to learn to construct meaning from the enormous number of words in a language. This binding needs to result from in-the-moment processing. The acoustic signal is first chunked into higher level sound units at the phonological level. To avoid interference between local sound-based units such as phonemes or syllables, these are further recorded as rapidly as possible into higher level units such as morphemes or words. This in-the-moment binding of lower-level, meaningless linguistic structures into higher-level, meaningful linguistic structures is called the chunk and pass process. The nested combinatorial architecture modeled here is considered to be a necessary feature of oral and written language due to the hard limit of cognitive processing. Our graphic represents the nested combinatorial structure of English orthography that is reflected by the matrix and word sum I've been working with since encountering them in Real Spelling in 2001. Morphology is the defining and delimiting framework for all orthographic structures. No linguistic structure ever crosses a morphemic boundary. The only sin in orthographic analysis is to violate the integrity of a morpheme. These principles are announced through a megaphone by Real Spelling and reflected in every message it presents about orthography. Until Scher's paper introduced me to the concept of combinatoriality, I didn't realize that these statements are not just about the structure of English orthography, but of all language, oral, written, and signed. In the orthographic investigations that follow, note how the matrix and word sum provide combinatorial guardrails to ensure instruction can explain Grapheme-phoneme correspondences that could not otherwise be explained. The matrix and word sum force us to consider Grapheme-phoneme correspondences not just for one word, but across morphological relatives. Now, on with the rest of this video and this section on research to practice.
Here we see the word heel uses the EA digraph for the phoneme E, but in healthy, that same EA is writing the phoneme E, as in healthy. Keeping the same grapheme for both words allows us to spell the base the same.